welcome to the Social Circle Planning Commission for January 26th. Sorry we're starting a little bit late, but just for record's sake, we do have a quorum with one member absent. Mr. Adolphus Gaither is not here. For those of you that on the Planning Commission had an opportunity to review the minutes from last month, do I note any changes or corrections that need to be made? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I make a motion that the minutes be approved by all the proper corrections if there should be any.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Signora to approve the minutes as written from last month. Do I hear a second? Mike Griswold, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that motion passed unanimous. First item is a public hearing for 2560 Social Circle Parkway. It's a request to construct or place a manufactured home on this property. Is zoned AG2. It is within the bypass corridor overlay district. Ms. Barber, would you introduce the item for us, please?
Yes, good evening, Chairman and Commission. Before you, we have an application for the Certificate of Appropriateness on the Highway Corridor Parkway. Parcel ID is SC230004. The address is 2560 Social Circle Parkway, and this is a certificate of appropriateness for a manufactured home to be placed on the property. Our ordinance under AG2 zoning allows a manufactured home, Class A. The property will have a natural buffer of trees, length of the driveway. The home will not be visible from the roadway. This property is 3.29 acres. The house would be positioned 500 feet from the parkway, 200 feet from the rear, and 40 feet from the sides. If you can see that little highlighted green area, that is the parcel of the 3.29 acres at 2560 Social Circle Parkway. Our next slide will show the future land use map. It will show the arrow pointing to that site, and it is characterized in the comprehensive plan as the commercial and industrial character area. Under our zoning map, it is AG2 zoning, and you can see that most of the property around that area is AG2 zoning except for the purple, and that is office institutional for future development. This is a picture of the driveway from the parkway. Shows the frontage of the parcel. It's wooded with most of it. The driveway goes back in there, like I said, 500 feet. The next slide will show a picture from the parkway showing where the driveway is located and the trees. That will stay the same. He's not taking any of that out. It will be placed, like I said, 500 feet off the parkway. And the next one is parcel of the land from the parkway and showing the adjoining property on the parkway. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Barbara, I do have a question for you. Would you mind explaining the purpose and intent of the corridor overlay, please?
Yes, Chairman. I brought the corridor overlay ordinance, and I'm going to read the purpose of the corridor overlay.
Thank you.
The mayor and council of the city hereby declares to be the purpose and intent of this regulation is to establish a uniform procedure for the protection, enhancement, and use of the North Cherokee Road, South Cherokee Road corridor, Social Circle Parkway, and North Cherokee Road and South Cherokee Road and Social Circle Parkway corridors in Social Circle, as the corridor has a direct impact on places, districts, sites, buildings, structures, and works of art with special historical, cultural, aesthetic interest of value. Suburban sprawl and roadside commercial developments, when set into a traditional rural community with valuable historic buildings such as Social Circle can produce an adverse effect on city character and quality of life. Conventional planning models, zoning ordinances can produce linear developments, harmonious architecture, large expansions of asphalt, and a proliferation of the signage. Careful planning, particularly along heavily traveled and developed corridors such as the corridor, can allow new developments to be successfully blended into the existing city without compromising the unique character of Social Circle. The purpose of this ordinance is to eliminate the development of appropriate regulations and planning techniques to protect Social Circle's entry corridor along the corridors. The city also seeks to enhance open space conservation. The mayor and council recognize commercial strip development sprawls, traffic congestion, extensive and competing signage, and incompatible architecture. In order to preserve the Social Circle rural abundance and historic elements, guidelines are necessary to prevent the emerge and expansion of long linear commercial strips within the corridors. The primary goal of the ordinance is to protect the character of these gateways while utilizing appropriate standards, criteria to direct future development in harmony with the city. The objectives also include the safe and effective use of the roadways and the encouragement of quality, sensible development in harmony with the rural character and historic elements of Social Circle. A further purpose is limitation on linear shopping centers and the parking lots associated therewith. The construction of new, smaller-scale traditional buildings along the roadway and frontage can exist in achieving the desired effect of buffering views of asphalt lots. That's the gist of what the corridor overlay is about. It goes on to do the definitions in the corridor with the commission and things like that.
Thank you.
You're
Are
welcome.
there any questions of the commission has of Barbara at this time before we open up the public hearing? If not, before we begin the public hearing, those that are in attendance that would like to speak for and against this application will have an opportunity to do so. I'll first call upon the applicant to give a presentation. The applicant will have a total of 10 minutes to give his or her presentation. The applicant may reserve time for rebuttal should they be necessary. After the applicant's presentation, those that would like to speak in favor of this request will be called upon. The total time amount given for those that would like to speak was 10 minutes. Now, that's not 10 minutes individually, that's 10 minutes total, aggregate. After those who would like to speak in favor for, I'll call upon those that would like to speak in opposition of. Again, those that would like to speak in opposition of will get a total of 10 minutes, not individually, but a total. If there's any time remaining from the applicant's 10 minutes, they may use so as a rebuttal. So at this time, for this case, I'll call upon the applicant, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, who would like to speak. Please come to the podium or to the microphone.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is LeBron Smith. This is my wife, Synethia Smith. We don't want to add too much more to Ms. Barbara's presentation, but we did just want to come before you all just to ask permission to place our home on our property that we bought last summer. We have every intention of just being a great citizen here in Social Circle, and that's part of the reason why we bought the land, because we know it's a great city. And as Ms. Barbara mentioned, we will not be visible from the road. We have 3.29 acres that we did purchase, and we're just asking, for permission to place our home on the land.
Ms. Smith, do you have anything to add?
I don't.
I have a question for you. Do you, in the application, I saw that you intend to build a garage as well at some point in the future? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. It'll be detached from the house.
Okay. But how big? I'm sorry.
It'll be a two-car garage.
Okay. So nothing gigantic.
No,
Okay.
no, your standard. And actually, I'm sure they have one door, but for two cars.
Sure.
But
Okay. Any questions of the applicant that the Planning Commission have? Well, Mr. Smith, I believe y'all spoke for a total of 2 minutes, so you have 8 minutes remaining for rebuttal should you need to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. For those that would like to speak in favor of this request, please come forward. For those that would like to speak in opposition to this request, please come forward. Okay, well, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. I'll ask the commission members if there's any questions, comments, items to deliberate on. Now's the time to do so. I looked at this request and looked at our corridor overlay. Looking at the current zoning of AG2, the placement of a manufactured home Class A is allowed under the underlying zoning district. However, in the corridor overlay, we look at the purpose of the overlay, look at the bypass corridor and what its intent to do. We look at the future land use map, and the future land use shows for commercial. This is a tough situation for me because I believe within our plan of what we have for future land use for the corridor, but I'm also torn because I understand what the Smiths want to do, and I fully support being able to live on your property you buy for your residents. So this one's difficult for me. I'm open to any suggestions, comments.
Oh, I have struggled with this one. I have read it many times. And while manufactured homes are certainly covered under Ag 2, the particular placement of a single home of that character on a lot of that character, it seems to be isolated. So going forward, with the land uses around it being what they are, it makes it a hard situation as to whether or not that would be the best use there for me.
I struggle with that, and it would be the same if it was a single family, if it was a stick built
any
structure.
house,
Doesn't
any
matter.
home.
It's the use of the property being residential that was what I struggled with, because the intent of the properties along the corridor were for the commercial growth and the industrial growth. And at one point, there was even a college of higher learning that were looking to go along the corridor that we had written a letter of support for at one point. And I just, expanding residential growth along the corridor, I know from the very beginning was not something that we as a city intended to do. But we have a residential, someone who has purchased the property intended for their residents, and that's what I'm struggling with.
Agreed.
Florine, thoughts, comments? Mike?
From what I could see, I didn't have a problem with it. It may be 10 years down the road before industrial gets there, 20 years down the road.
That's right.
And I don't see any reason to, I mean, they may want to sell it as industrial property when street, and that's
Yeah,
my view.
He's got 3 acres, and you can't do much industrial on 3 acres. And that's what,
Yeah.
I'm happy Mr. and Mrs. Smith bought here. I want them to be able to be successful and live here. It's just knowing what the corridor was intended for, and that's what I struggle with. Sonora, thoughts?
I don't really have a problem with it, but 10 years or 15 years down the line is industry coming. I've been waiting a minute on that Waffle House. It ain't got here yet.
I'm with you. I think we've all been waiting on the Waffle House.
Yeah, if you put a Waffle House there, we'd have it, no problem.
Absolutely. Jay, do you have any thoughts?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I do want to ask you a question directly. Is that the reason for choosing manufactured home because you tend to be temporary for however long and then selling the property to eventually just move on and just kind of a temporary situation, or is that why you're going with manufactured versus stick-built?
And sorry, just wanted to come back up to the microphone,
That's
but
Thank
no, we tend to be here permanently. And to be honest with you, our goal was to start generational wealth for our daughter.
Which
You know, we didn't have opportunity for that growing up, so we are able to do that, and that's our goal. So it's not that we're looking to sell the property. We love it. It's a beautiful piece of property, creek in the back. We plan on being here. That's our last place that we plan on buying. So we sold our home back in June for that purpose, and that's,
Okay.
you know.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure, please don't take this as concern about what you're proposing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I fully support what you're proposing to do, but our concern is that the corridor, that bypass corridor, was something that the city worked towards for an area for our commercial growth and our industrial growth for the city and for the growth of the future. Hopefully one day that will come. We have to have rooftops, understandably, in order to get the commercial that we desire. My concern is you and your family establishing there, and then things that grow up around it may make it to where it's uncomfortable for you, given, you know, whether it's truck traffic, whether it's industrial noises, things of that nature. That's some of the things that I'm thinking about. Right now, you're right, it is an absolutely beautiful piece of property. It's serene. You're surrounded by woods. I don't blame you for wanting to live there, and I don't blame you for living there. Putting your house 500 feet off the road, that's absolutely a wonderful idea because it gets closer to the creek. You don't hear the road noise, and I would have done the same thing. But thinking about the future and thinking about how our city grows in the future, that is something that I'm concerned with, and that's why I've got involved with the city. So that's why it's not just an easy yes for me. I can't speak for everybody else, but that's my concern. And hats off to you for your goals and objectives for your family about generational wealth, or at least having an opportunity to improve the next generation. I think that's what every parent wants, but I don't know. Others may have questions for you. That's where I'm standing. And please know that when I look at this, I look at it as a whole and not as an individual. Any other?
So I think it's a hard situation because in 15 years, I'm not sure how old your daughter is now, but in 15 years, that may be a really hard place to live based on what's around you. It may not be. I mean, we might wait another 20 years for the Waffle House or whatever comes along there. But I'm concerned that you would be an island at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it could work both ways. It could be a very wise investment.
It could, it could be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just hard.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, because in 10 years, if they all come in, they could sell it to Waffle House.
Yeah.
You'd think somebody wants a Waffle House, wouldn't you?
I don't know if I want it there.
I do too.
Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, if there's no other discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion, we accept it, that we approve it, and,
We have a motion made by Mike Griswold to approve the COA as requested. Is there a second?
I second a motion that we approve.
We have a second by Ms. Florian Phillips. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
All those opposed?
I'll oppose it.
Thank you. Barbara, did you get that?
It's me.
Valerie?
Valerie opposed.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. And
I did too.
and
With With
Valerie
reservations.
and Jay proposed, or opposed, excuse me. Okay. I'm going to move to the second item, which is the Poplar Forest preliminary plan review. I believe we all have seen this multiple times. We have now passed the stage of sketch plan, and we're in the preliminary plan stage of this development. Barbara, would you like to introduce us to everything we've gotten so far? I believe last time we had this, there was a list of items that were not completed. We deferred the action on this, deferred a public hearing on this to allow the applicant time to complete all the requirements of the preliminary plat. Have they done so?
They have addressed some of the comments, but like I said, the initial public hearing was on November the 22nd. The public hearing of December the 22nd, 2020 was deferred because the applicant had not completed addressing comments. This evening, the applicant has advised that he has not completed the revised stormwater management plan. The public hearing this evening was advertised for, and many prior comments have been addressed. I can go to the very bottom, but like I said, for anyone that's here that has not been through this, this is a location of the proposed subdivision on Memorial Drive. We are in the preliminary stage on the Poplar Forest subdivision. The Planning Commission made the recommendation in August 2020 to Mayor and Council, and the Mayor and Council approved the sketch plan in September. We do have some questions that we have addressed for these slides to just let everyone know.
Okay.
Who will delineate the wetlands? The applicant's engineer has placed on the preliminary plan that there is a possible wetland mapped by, I'm not going to say that right, but Inversions LLC, and this was in November of 2020. Who will be responsible for the sewer? This will be the city. It is the sewer system is a public system and is required to be under the subdivision ordinance. The lateral from each home to be clean out at the easement line and the right-of-way is a private. Homeowner's responsibility from there to the main is public, the city responsibility. We had some additional requests on the rear setbacks of 65 feet, of which 25 is undisturbed natural buffer with the appropriate maintenance. The applicant has placed this on the preliminary plan. What is construction traffic was a question. The staff will recommend designating Memorial Drive as no parking on both sides of the road from Alcova to South Cherokee. The council has the ability to make this designation and the police can enforce. All the buildings, construction, parking, and equipment and material would be limited to the property. Deliveries will still need to be managed and can be restricted from the school traffic. We have an approval list of builders. Specific builders cannot be condition of a subdivision approval. However, the home construction standards and exterior material can be conditions of the subdivision, and the applicant has received suggestions for the conditions. All the infrastructure should be completed prior to home construction. The city agrees and would recommend the condition of approval. Also, I skipped the first one. Construction standards will be the standard conditions of the subdivision. We do have a list of conditions that the Planning Commission chairman had made included in this submission, and the Planning Commission may require these conditions if you wish. There are a list, and I will be glad to read those. I know Scott had asked me about if the applicant has met all the conditions, and no, he has not met all the conditions. The approval of the preliminary plat would be effective from 1 year if the Planning Commission decided to approve this, but we do have some conditions that are not included. So these are the ones that are recommended by the Planning Commission. And like I said, there's our Planning Commission chairman. And at the end, we have a city engineer's review that, Scott, you were asking, some things that he requested that we address. And does the right-of-way offset legally exist for the existing driveway apron on lots 13 and 14? This is not needed by the city, and the right-of-way offset should be deleted and the driveway apron removed and curb and gutter replaced at this location. The right-of-way line has been extended, but the small parcel is still on the plans. This should be incorporated into lots 13 and 14, and there should be a note added to remove the entrance and replace with curb and gutter and sidewalk. The developer can eliminate, but if you leave, the setbacks would change, and there will need to be a sidewalk, curb and gutter installed. This could be fixed with converting over to the private driveway. There's no access to the gravel drive to the pump station. We do not have a document showing title search regarding the access to the pump station, and we will request to place a note on track 1, shall have access from Wildwood Drive. Not have access to Wildwood Drive. Thank you. That is great. Yes, the approval of the preliminary plan shall be effective from period 1 year from the date that the preliminary plat is approved by the mayor and council, at the end of which time the applicant must have submitted a final subdivision plat for approval. If the subdivision plat is not submitted for final approval within the 1 year period, the preliminary approval shall be null and void, and the applicant shall be required to submit a new plat for sketch plan review, subject to all the government laws, rules, and regulations and ordinances. The zoning and the subdivision ordinance, every preliminary plat shall conform to existing zoning and subdivision ordinances of the city, as well as all applicable government laws, rules, regulations applicable at the time that the proposed preliminary plat is submitted for the approval of the mayor and council. The Planning Commission may wish to consider whether they want to apply any of these conditions suggested above. I did not read those, but I will be glad to read those for you. We have those listed in Appendix A. The Planning Commission may recommend approval, denial, deferral, or approval with conditions. I did state that the applicant has sent us a Dropbox today, but that changes from what we have before you tonight would apply to the March Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Barbara. Out of the preliminary plan that we have right now, minus the conditions or the criteria from the city engineer and the conditions that we discussed at the sketch plan stage, following our ordinance, does this preliminary plat meet those requirements?
Yes, sir, they do, with the exception of the items that we listed on the PowerPoint.
That the engineer listed?
That the engineer stated, yes.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll call Mr. Doster as the applicant.
Thank you for your time tonight. At this point, we are really close. We've decided to do a less impactful plan. We're going to do, and I sent those today when I received them from my engineer, 2 smaller detention ponds instead of a large one on each side of the road. We have a new hydrology study. I'd like to defer till next month, and we'll have everything perfect.
Okay.
We'll be losing lot 16 in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So in light of new information, and the applicant has asked for a deferral, we'll defer the public hearing. We won't have a public hearing tonight for those that would like to speak. We'll wait until we get all the facts and all the information from the applicant, and at this point the chair will entertain a motion to defer this action until the March meeting. We won't defer it till February, we'll defer it till March. That way it allows any review period between the applicant's submittal to the city, allows the city engineer to take a look at the plan that's submitted, and allows the applicant's engineer to correct any needs or items that need to be corrected on that before we actually hear it again and before the public comes back out to see it and hear it and speak about it. Is that clear?
That's clear.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to defer this item until the March meeting.
Make a motion to defer this until March to get all the facts and information in.
Okay, we have a motion by Jay. We have a second. We have a second by Valerie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That passed unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen that are here to speak about or hear about the Poplar Forest preliminary plan, it's still not ready yet, as you heard from the applicant. So we'll have this item in March. The third item was a Jubilee rezoning. It has been postponed until May. We're not sure if we have any old business. Barbara, do we have any old business?
No, sir, I don't
Okay.
have anything.
Under new business, I do have a couple items. I was contacted today by Amber McKibben. She's working with the redevelopment committee, and she asked if there's anyone with the planning commission that would like to and be able to serve on the redevelopment committee as they go through and identify redevelopment plans and throughout the city. She did say it would be, I forgot how many, but it'd be a handful of Zoom virtual type meetings, no in-person meetings to discuss that. I unfortunately, with work picking up the way it is, I don't have the time to dedicate it to that, and I told her I would certainly ask one of you if you would entertain the thought and volunteer to do something like that. I guess since if no one wants to do it, and since Adolphus is not here, we can all appoint him, right? Is that how that works? If you don't show, you get put on boards? No, I won't do that to him. But if there's someone that would like to participate in the redevelopment committee from this board that would have the time to do so, that'd be great. You don't have to give me an answer now. We can follow back up via email in the next couple of days. And then I'm not sure if everyone saw an email Barbara sent out this afternoon about the housing survey. And she's asked for those back. Oh, wow, that was quick. She's asked for those back by February 17th, I think. Is that right?
15.
That was close. Okay.
Yes. Close.
I don't have any other items to discuss. Barbara, do you?
No, sir, I sent out that email about the housing survey.
Okay.
If we could get all our boards and commissions to fill that out would be great, so we can discuss those when we start having our planning hosted meetings for housing.
Okay. Ms. Adele, do you have anything? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may we ask a question?
You may certainly ask a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
You have to come to the podium, though.
Okay.
This is probably to the city manager. Are y'all telling us that this environ study they submitted is constituting the wetlands delineation? That we were
We have a
promised?
letter from that company, and it's
Do
on
you
the...
have one from the United States Corps of Engineers?
Sir, because we're no longer discussing, I think what you're getting at...
That's old business from last time.
Well, and I think the floor is not open to any discussion on the item on the agenda. In the item on the agenda, I believe you're discussing is from the Environs LLC wetlands delineation for
It's about the
Poplar Forest.
delineation that we were promised last time that would be here tonight.
Yes, sir, and we're not holding that item tonight. So if you come back in March, your questions that you have and comments will be heard. The other item for new business I did think of as something that we may want to look at as a board. We're right here close to Harlaber Creek State Park. And Harlaber Creek has an observatory. I'm not sure if many people knew about that, but something that they've worked on for a while is educating local communities about dark sky and about light pollution. With our growth in the city, with the number of residents looking to locate in Social Circle and the development that we're looking at, or that's looking at us, It might be a good idea that we consider our neighbors to our east at Hard Labor and look at adopting a similar dark sky ordinance that would put limitations on types of light fixtures to where they would be full cutoff, not cut off as in turn the light off, but that light is shined down and not up. As some of you have driven out on Alcova Road in the last 2 years, 3 years, you've noticed at night the street lights are a spotlight and they shine down specifically and there's no light shining back up. That's a type of fixture called a full cutoff fixture. There's ordinances out there that other cities have adopted that require full cutoff fixtures, that require a foot candle or lumens maximum. And if that's something that this board would like for us to explore, I think it would be a good opportunity to do so while we've got a lot of development looking at us, that they know up front that they're not just going to light the night sky and drown out the stars. I know probably many of us like to look outside and see the stars at night, and if you go just a little bit to our west, you don't have that option. If you go a little bit to our south, especially around Takeda and Facebook, you don't have that option. So just something to think about. With no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Mike Griswold to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second by Jay Paul. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.